So it is passage. So you can see. Please read this passage. Kant's humanity formula distinguishes between objective and subjective ends. So here subjective ends, which Kant sometimes referred to as material ends, are things that have value only within the unique material context of a person's life. A new car says or job promotion objective ends. Okay, so here you can see objective ends on the other hand have value irrespective of someone's unique desires or individual context. So for Kant, the prime example of objective ends is a person since they remain their dignity and worth regardless of another estimation of them. Importantly, subjective ends are obtaining using means that are particular of each individual's unique context. For example, the means I would take to obtain a promotion within academia differ widely from a means of persons working in the financial sector might undertake to obtain a promotion. Also, subjective ends are often themselves merely a means to further ends. I desire a new car because it will improve my morning commute, which I desire because it will improve my work performance, which I desire because it will better my chances at a promotion, and so on. Objective ends, on the other hand, are obtained by following duties that we perform irrespective of our individual context. To give an example from medical ethics, the surgeon perform life-saving surgery on the serial killer not because they have a desire to save a serial killer's life, but rather because they have a duty as a surgeon to preserve human's life. Additional objective ends are the Kant called, or what Kant calls ends in themselves. They require no further value beyond the value contained in themselves. Writing in 1785, Kant says humans can grasp inherent value through philosophical self-reflection in a way that other beings cannot, and that chief among things vested with inherent value officers human is a human, including the experimenter yourself. Here is where force first man went wrong, though it cannot be denied that he was successful in advancing scientific and medical progress. He disregarded the he disregarded the moral duty he had to respect himself, but by not treating himself merely as means to his subjective ends. Werner Forsman touched his own heart, shattering taboos that surrounded this vital organ, inspiring a renaissance in cardiology that continues into the present day. Yet, the ethical code with his experiment reiterates the importance of self-respect and portray the moral limits of the suffer scientific curiosity. This code is timeliner that ever because gene editing technologies such as CRISPR have made medical experimentation a do it yourself friendly endeavor, while it is unlikely that medical self experimentation will ever reach, we can at least be hopeful that in the headlong rush to prove a theory or advance others' health, those who conduct such experiments watch out or for their own safety and well-being with more care than their predecessors. Here it is the topic, and you can see the question. So, what is the difference between objective and subjective ends according to Kant? So, objective ends have the value irrespective of someone's unique desire or individual context, while subjective ends have value only within the unique material context. Objective ends have value irrespective of someone's unique desire or individual context, while subjective ends have value only within the unique material context of a personal life. Here, a personal life, subjective and objective here, value irrespective of someone unique desires or individual context. Can you give an example of an objective ends? According to Kant, a person is a prime example of an objective end. Okay, and since they retain their dignity and worth regardless another's estimation of them. What are the means used to obtain subjective ends? The means to obtain subjective ends are particular to each individual's unique context. For example, different means by may be used to obtain a promotion within academic compared to financial sector. Are subjective subjective ends often means to a further end? Yes, subjective ends are often themselves a mean to a further end. For example, wanting a new car maybe means to improve a morning commute, which in turn improves our performance. How are objective ends obtained? Objective ends are obtained by following duties that we perform irrespective of our individual context. These duties are based on values that have intrinsic worth. What does Kant mean by saying objective ends are ends in themselves? Objective ends requires no further value beyond the value of content in themselves. Okay, they have inherent value that can be grasped through philosophical self-reflection. Why does Arthur argue that Werner Forssmann disregarded a moral duty? Despite his medical advancement, Forssmann ignored the moral duty to respect himself and treated himself merely as a means to his subjective ends. How can the ethical code to Forssmann experiment be applied to modern medical self-experimentation? The author suggests that in the era where is easily accessible gene editing technology, these conducting self-experimentation should prioritize their own safety and well-being while advancing scientific community. It is likely that medical self-experimentation will ever cease. It is unlikely that medical self-experiment will cease entirely, but the hope is that those who conduct such experiment will exercise more care for their own safety and well-being than their predecessor. How does Kant's philosophy emphasize the importance of self-respect? Kant's philosophy highlights the importance of respecting oneself and recognizing one's own inherent value as a human being, which means not treating oneself merely as a means of subjective ends. So, according to Kant, which of the following is an example of objective end? The person, which distinguishes objective ends from objective ends as per Kant. Subjective ends retain their worth irrespectiveness of estimation by others. How are subjective ends obtained? By tailoring means of individual context. What is the important moral duty of horsemen failed to fulfill according to the given pair information? Treating oneself merely as a means of subjective end. What is the hope expressed in the passage regarding medical self experimentation in the present day? Experimenters will conduct experiment with greater care for their own safety and well-being.